Peace, sisters and brothers. My name is Eljeer Hawkins. I'm a member of Socialist Alternative USA that stands in solidarity with the International Socialist Alternative. Thank you for having me on Quarantine Capitalism, the online series around this profound pandemic that's affecting the world. Here in New York, I'm a surgical tech. I work at a New York hospital in Manhattan. The crisis is profound. The numbers are very staggering from the standpoint of those who have the virus in New York State, which is fast approaching 50,000. Here in New York, it is half of that, and we have over 500 dead from the coronavirus. This pandemic and its effects in New York really flows from the fact that we've had over 40 years of budget cuts, attacks on social and public spending, and primarily in the field of healthcare. Since 2000, we've had over 21 hospitals closed down, 15 of them in New York City alone since 2003. We had over 73,000 beds in 2000. Now in 2020, we have 53,000 beds. That's a decrease of 20,000 beds. And with that decrease of 20,000 beds, it's a decrease of vital equipment like ventilators, resources, the loss of jobs. And so we've been asked to do so much with so little resources. Every hospital is rationing in the sense of gowns and gloves, N95 masks, ventilators, operating rooms are now being converted to ICU units to deal with the massive amount of positive cases of the coronavirus. Many of the workers on the front lines are dealing with these horrific conditions, particularly our nursing staff. And in fact, over the past 7 years, we've lost 1,000 nurses here in New York City. This is a deadly cocktail of economic policies rooted in neoliberalism. Is rooted in the environmental destruction that we see on a daily basis. And it's due to the fact that there's been an unbridled indifference to the everyday living and struggle of ordinary working people, the poor and the most oppressed in U.S. society. The $2 trillion stimulus package, the largest in U.S. history, is primarily a corporate bailout to ensure the titans of industry are salvaged. And it reminds me of what Dr. King said many years ago. We have socialism for the rich and rugged capitalism and individualism for the poor and the working class. And so the $2 trillion will not properly address the question of a rent freeze, will not deal with the question of bailouts for the working class outside of a $1,200 check, which is surely not enough. If you make $75,000 and less, and not everyone will get that check. You have to have basically filed your taxes in 2018, 2019 in order to receive it quickly. And then, of course, If you are undocumented worker, you will not most likely see a check, at all. The homeless. And so this coronavirus is really another great example of disaster capitalism. We have already seen that big business, the Trump administration, the two-party system, and its institutions and its representatives are taking advantage of this pandemic to make sure that they fortify their profits, fortify their power and their prestige. But what has happened of recent is that ordinary working people have gone on the offensive to fight back, to demand that this crisis is met with deep levels of love and humanity for ordinary working people and the poor. And so we've seen workers in every sector of society go on the offensive, demand better equipment, demand pay, demand benefits, to demand that they're treated with some level of respect by this callous system of capitalism. Socialist Alternative has engaged in a number of important campaigns, like our virtual town hall meeting that took place on March 22nd. We have a new blog that called Workers Speak Out, the coronavirus lockdown. We are engaged in a very important campaign to tax Amazon to deal with this crisis, led by our Socialist City Councilor and Social Alternative member, Shama Sawant in Seattle, Washington, to make sure when the richest human being and the richest corporation on the planet pay for this crisis in a very serious way. We've also put forward a petition called We Won't Die for Wall Street, Tax Billionaires to Fund Coronavirus Relief. And this is rooted in the fact that Trump is attempting to say that we should go back to work by Easter, to go back and basically, once again, to fortify the profit margin of the major corporations that dictate our lives on a daily basis. And this petition, really highlights that we're saying, hell no, we won't go. We also put forward a very important coronavirus program that talks about, one, immediate overall health care, establish safe working conditions, full pay for the unemployed, protect people, not profits, a new party for working people, and the construction of a socialist society, which is greatly needed. It's clear that this system cannot even provide the most basic necessities for us in a normal situation, considering, and certainly cannot provide and deal with this crisis head on, particularly as Trump, his administration knew about the tsunami that was coming the way of the United States with this pandemic. It is akin, this level of denial, incompetence, and criminality. It reminds me of what Bill Clinton did when he got certain intel about the bombing of the World Trade Centers that resulted in the horrific events of 9/11, 2001. And so what we're faced with, we have to make a decision as ordinary working people, not only in the United States, not only in New York, but around the world, that we must organize, we must mobilize, we must agitate for what we want and what we need to live a dignified life. And this pandemic is saying to us all that we have to build a political, economic, and social alternative from this rotten system of capitalism that only brings death and destruction. Is clear. So I ask you all to join us in this struggle, to organize with us. It's difficult times, but in difficult times, it is the working class that shows the ingenuity, that shows the fighting spirit, and that shows the unbridled love for humanity. Join us. Thank you.